Hello and welcome to Entitled. I'm Bernie Espinosa.
And I'm David Bellinger. Hey, everyone.
Yay, super excited. We have an amazing studio guest today.
Yes.
And we love our show Entitled because David and I both work in the title industry, so wink, wink. We're both long timers with F&F, lawyer's title, so been a very fun career for us. And then, Entitled, this is where we talk to the entrepreneurs, the thought leaders, and the game changers in the real estate space. And we actually have a pretty big star with us today.
I feel like a ta-da needs to start.
Yeah. So we've got Chelsea Peitz today, and for anybody listening in, I'm sure you're familiar with her name and her speaking, and really, quite frankly, it's kind of cool that kind of locally grown here, now become quite a national person in the real estate coaching social media space. So welcome, Chelsea Peitz.
I'm so excited to be here with you, my friends. It's going to be amazing. I can't wait.
I know. I think that, just before we started going here, we were just talking about the collective journey here of all of us. And, you having been working in the social media space for over 2 decades. And I feel like we just met a minute ago, but gosh, I think it goes back to 2009, 2010, when we first started, in each other's world. We used to work together.
We did. And I know that it was right after 2009, 2010, because I was a realtor for many years before that. And then 2008 took me out.
Yes.
And so many others.
And so many others. And I still wanted to stay in the industry and ended up moving into our world in the title space and was marketing director. And so then I was in the position of helping realtors figure out how to market themselves. And recall in 2009, 10, 11, social media was not like social media is now. And when I was a realtor, I was not making content. We didn't use Facebook for business. And I certainly wasn't talking to my phone and sharing those videos to the world. So it's a very different world than we started in.
And the speed in which all of that's happened, and then the speed today is still even faster.
You can't keep up.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit, I know a lot of people know who you are, but just, let's talk the origin story a little bit. You kind of just touched on it now, being in real estate, but I feel like what's really cool about what you've done, Chelsea, is you've created a really specialized niche for yourself, because to my remembrance, I don't really remember anybody doing what you were doing until you were doing it.
You didn't take over for somebody.
It was like you and Katie Lance.
And there was a lot of pushback. A lot of people saying, no, we're not doing this social media thing. That's not something that's necessary. We're not going to do it. And I just said, there's something here. And I even remember for a number of years saying, I will do this as a side project totally for free because it's a passion and because I believe in it. And after those number of years, they said, okay, you were right.
I think I even recall one thing I remember on the way here was we did an event one time, and there was an app called Down Periscope, which was actually what we, and you and I were just MacGyvering that. How cool would it be if we could make a class live? And I mean, now we Zoom like crazy, but we were sitting there trying to figure out Down Periscope. And I think at one point too, you had even proposed to the company at the time, putting together social media, and it was so what? That's ridiculous. That's crazy. No one's going to use that for real estate. No one uses Facebook for real estate, know?
Exactly. Yeah.
And look where we're at today, where it's such a vital, critical component to people's presence. And twofold, you either have anxiety if you're not doing it, or you're doing it, at a pace in which
you have anxiety to keep up with doing it.
Yeah.
It's a really emotional, vulnerable experience, I personally think, and that you touched on it, is the differentiator between me and a lot of other people in this industry is that my background before I became a realtor, I was going to be a therapist.
That's right.
And I really wanted to help people in that way. And then I realized I'm highly emotional, empathic, and sensitive. And I was like, probably going to dysregulate my nervous system if I'm not prepared for that.
She's
and
all about her adrenal support.
Be with, clients all day. And so I didn't find myself ever going into real estate or social media. But the idea of being fascinated with human behavior and how people connect in real relationships, and I was talking about screen-to-screen relationships before 2020.
That's right.
And nobody wanted to talk about that. And then when we all got forced to be on a screen, and then we all realized this isn't ideal, but we're never going back.
Right.
I mean, this is amazing that I get to do a podcast with you live in person. That just never happens. It's always over Zoom.
Right.
And so for the rest of our business lives, all of us sitting in this room, for the rest of our business lives, we are going to have to use some form of technology with a screen to interface with clients, whether it's FaceTime, Zoom,
Yeah.
or Teams, or anything in between. So it's really about how can we use technology and social media and the vulnerable experience of creating something that is about you with you in it and sharing it with the world for all to see and comment on.
Well, I think what's really cool about your approach in the coaching, the mentorship, and just, being able to share the ideas is addressing the emotional side of it. So many people that do what Chelsea does just come and say, follow this step, do this step, do this step. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for so many of us, we have to overcome ourselves. And your ability to kind of, I think you call it the neuroscience.
Neuroscience.
The neuroscience of it. And that is so unique and special that you speak to that in terms of helping people get over these humps. Because is it really about the content? Because there's no shortage of ideas. I think it's about getting over self.
It's the fear of being seen.
Yes.
It's ultimately, we are all the 6-year-old child who wants to be loved and affirmed, and we fear judgment and the worth. And it seems like so many people, and I was jealous of those people that just are like, oh, I don't even care. I just post whatever I want, and I don't care. What if somebody says something? I love that. I welcome it. Let's have that conversation. And for me, I was thinking, oh my gosh, that sounds really scary. So, a lot of people are mired down and overwhelmed with the amount of things that they could be doing now, but a lot of people ultimately are feeling quite resentful that in 2026 it feels as though you have to be a full-time content creator to be successful at fill in the blank of whatever your actual job is.
Right.
And there's a lot of emotions that come around the idea of creating for either yourself or for other people, or creating something and putting it on display for people to potentially judge. So there is a lot of limiting beliefs that, as the human experience is, it's truly a fear of being seen in many different ways.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, and you can give someone a checklist, right? Here's what you should be doing. But until they buy in themselves, you need to do it because, okay, I buy in, I'm going to do it. I'm committed. I want to do it. Because if you don't want to do it, it's
so true.
Yeah. Move on to
Exactly.
something else, right?
Well, or you have to kind of treat it as, I don't want to do it, but it's a task and it's an element of me performing in my role, my job, whatever. And knowing that by doing so, that you have a better result for success, right? There's an element to that too, where you feel like, okay, there's always things in work that you kind of have to do that aren't your favorite thing to do, but you know that it impacts
But
its
if you knew
results.
that coming in to whatever business you're in, you're
Yeah.
accepting that, right? Like that would be like, if you want to be a real estate agent, you got to pass a test. Well, I don't want to take a test. Okay, well then you're
Yeah.
not going to be a real estate agent.
Well, and I think too, a lot of people, especially in marketing and social media, it seems as though there's one way, there's a template, there's a success strategy that if I follow these steps and implement them, even if I don't want to, I'm going to be successful. When in reality, to speak the language of the listeners, there are so many ways to be an incredible real estate agent. There is not just one way.
Right.
You can be all by referral.
Yep.
You can be somebody who goes all in on ads. You can be somebody who has an entire marketing team that follows you around and makes 8 videos a day and posts them. There is not one way to be good at real estate, and there is not one way to do social media.
Many swim lanes, right?
And I think that giving people the opportunity without shaming them, making them feel bad or less than, or you're doing it wrong. First of all, if you don't know, how can you ever do it wrong?
Right.
And there are so many different ways. And so I'm really big on giving people permission. That's the biggest compliment people give me is, wow, you really give me permission to look at this a little bit differently, or to take this piece and try this. And you don't have to do it all. And I'm a rule breaker. That's just my human design, my nature anyway. But giving people permission to pick and choose what feels aligned for them within social media. There is something for literally everyone.
I love
you
that.
never even have to make a post to use social media successfully.
Especially now.
Yeah. You know what I think is really cool too, and maybe this has changed or not, but I think that a lot of times people see somebody in your role or your position in your, keynote level, right? And they assume that you have a crew. And I love the story because Chelsea Peitz does her own post. You guys, on the way in here, she's recording video and getting her content for you yourself. And I think that's such a great example, that permission piece. Like, that's how you have decided to give yourself permission to your social. You didn't roll in here with camera people. And by the way, which is great too for the people who do
We've had
that.
guests roll in with
I mean,
cameras.
I'm kind of jealous because that would be awesome. I like that idea. I like that idea.
Have somebody walk around with, like, the perfect lights.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that that's, important to be shared, that you have chosen your lane and that you're actually doing it, right? So I think that's so admirable, because I do believe that many folks get to hear people talk in your position, and you've already you're doing it beyond the starting line, right? You're hired people, you've got platforms, and to my knowledge, you're still your social media.
I'm it. I'm
Yeah.
the only
You're the
person.
director.
And I want to make it very clear that's because I enjoy
That's
that
right.
choice.
Yes.
And so if it brings you joy to make 12 videos a day and you get out of bed and your feet hit the floor and you're like, I cannot wait to make these videos and I can't wait to put them out to every single platform there is, I love that for you. For me, that my nervous system is super grounded and regulated right now. That would completely, absolutely dysregulate me. And people are shocked to know that I post once, maybe twice a week if I'm feeling good. And so there are so many other things you can be doing. And also, side note, would I grow faster, get more reach and visibility if I posted every single day? Sure, absolutely. So again, there's not one way to do social media. I personally have chosen something that I know is sustainable for the rest of my seasons, because we have seasons of being busier at work. We have seasons of not feeling well. We have seasons of taking care of parents or kids or whatever may happen. And I'm doing something that I know, one, brings me joy. Because, like, listen, if we're not having any fun with it, what is the point? Yeah,
That's
we
right.
got to do things that we don't really want to do. But ultimately, we should be starting with the things that we actually enjoy and doing something just because we want to do it, not because it's a horrible, awful
I love
chore.
that. Right.
Because you're not going to do it. It's just like going to the gym. If I don't find something I enjoy, some element of it, eventually I'm probably just not going to want to go.
Right. I think that's super important for a lot of realtors to understand, because I think that we get bombarded with the stats. Like, you need to be posting this much, and you just said it, like, whatever that is for you. If I'm posting 1 to 2 times a week, that's great. But you also said I can engage in different ways, and actually posting content, I can get involved in other people's.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So my phrase, which I know you'll appreciate because I know you love a good phrase.
Yes.
Less contenting, more commenting. I'll repeat
love
that. It's about less contenting and more commenting, because ultimately nothing has changed. Ultimately, humans are humans, and the same brains that we have offline are the same brains that we have online. We build trust in the same form and fashion. And for those of you who remember BNI meetings that we went to 20, 25 years ago, which still are probably thriving and people
I
are
would say
still
so many
going,
people still do that.
it's about human connections and relationships. And the person who goes every single week and goes around every single table and gets to know people outside of that BNI meeting, generally speaking, get more business and more referrals. The same thing happens if you go to social media and you don't ever engage with anyone. You're not going to get the results that you're hoping for. Nothing has ultimately changed.
Yeah.
It's just the format and the platform that we're using, but it's still the humans that are on the other side of the screen. So you have to still have that human element of how are we connecting? And I prefer to talk to people. I also like to make stories versus feed posts, because there's no rules and there's no format or editing or app that I need to use. And it's funny because I was just thinking today, I'm making a video about this concept that I do a lot of discussion and teaching around how do we create content that is searchable and shareable, that helps you grow, builds your visibility and your brand. When in reality, that content, which is great, I do that. I've written multiple books about it. The content that people remember almost is never that.
Interesting.
It's the content that when we make something that has nothing to do with our area of expertise, people remember my dog. People remember that I'm on a cooking journey, that I've still to this day never made a steak because I'm still intimidated by it, but I started my cooking journey in January and I'm still going strong. And I am cooking and I am learning, and people say, how's it going with cooking? Have you made the steak
I love
yet?
it.
Right? So the
That's so
stuff
cool.
that we talk about is the memorable things that are the human element. And yeah, we can have a really thriving personal brand and get business from social media if we only focus on expertise and content that is highly educational, value add. it will accelerate and people will remember you more if you are sharing some of that content too. And a lot of people have fear about being a private person, which we can certainly talk about. But I always tell people, you are a human being who happens to sell real estate. You're not a realtor that happens to be a human being. And how people connect with you outside in the world is how they're going to connect with you on the inside of social media too.
I love that.
That was actually one of my questions I wanted to ask you. How do you address, because we hear it so much, I don't want to share my personal stuff.
Absolutely. I don't want to become the annoying oversharer. I'm a very private person. You know, the way I was raised is
I
you
have
keep
4 Facebook accounts.
Yes.
This one's for grandparents. This
Yeah.
one's
Right, absolutely. And understood. I was raised, you keep business over here and personal over here, and you don't cross those things if you want to be taken seriously as a professional person. And, you know, what's really interesting is I've really been thinking about that for the last few years. And I thought to myself, you know what, that's actually not true. We don't keep business and personal or human separate. We keep business and private separate, because if we did not build rapport with a human being, right? If we sat down here and I had never met you and I said, hi, I'm Chelsea, nice to meet you, and didn't talk about the weather or the studio and how cool this is or where you work or how long you've been doing the podcast or how many episodes you're in, the small talk moments, right? That we have to build trust because it's psychologically safe, low barrier of entry content. And I immediately sat down with you and said, how much money did you make last year? That would be a bit jarring. And you'd say, wow, that's kind of big talk moment there. Right? So it's really interesting that we need some of those easy human things. We do not keep business and personal separate, or you'd never build rapport. We keep business and private separate. Now, the big thing is, well, what's private? Well, whatever you decide that is. If you never want to post in real time, great. You never want to post you're on vacation, amazing. You never want to post your kids' faces, that's totally fine, right? Whatever's private for you could be completely different for me. But we can't actually logically say we never talk about the books we're reading, the podcast we're listening to, the thing we did on Saturday, you know, at what sports we're watching, what Netflix show. There are so many human elements that we feel like we could share with a stranger at a conference. That's my barometer. If you sat down at a conference and you're going to be there for 2 days in Las Vegas and you're sitting down next to somebody at the table that you're probably going to be forced to role play with, what would you share? You would
look at your neighbor.
Right.
That
You'd
is
probably
so
talk about where you're
funny.
from, how many years you've been in the business. My gosh, it's so cold in this room. Why do they keep it 40 degrees, right? And so we're
awesome.
building rapport, and it would be weird if we skipped all that and went right to super serious topics. And I say, you know, what my name is and where I'm from. And I'm like, Dave, what is your childhood trauma you're working on right now? You'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to get up and move at lunchtime. We forget. And the reason we don't do personal content, you know, other than thinking it's the private area, that it's like too private or I don't want to overshare, is we actually don't think that our personal stories have any value unless they're things like I've climbed Mount Everest or I've had something really monumental happen in my life. And again, you have to think about, what do you sit down and talk to your family or your friends over dinner on a Wednesday night?
Yeah.
It's probably the really boring things like, I had to go get the tires fixed today. And then I talked to so-and-so. It's not always these big, huge announcements. It's the small, little, mundane moments where we actually connect with people.
So true.
So-
it's so well articulated.
So we have to remember that even though we think it doesn't have value because we all took the same class, I don't know where it was, but we all went to the class that said, if you're going to show up and do real estate content and you're going to be an authority and they're going to trust you and you're going to get business from social media, you better show up and provide value, and value equals educational content about real estate. That is what we have in our brains. But value comes in all shapes and sizes. My dog, immense value, can't measure it. Can't give you a scale what percentage of value she provides me. Funny content that makes you feel seen, content that I share with my sister because it's something that I want to do with her on our next sister trip. Those are things that give us value. And you can't measure it because you can't measure an aha moment. I can't measure when somebody sends something and said, oh my gosh, this is so us. We can't measure that. So this idea that everything is measurable, or if it's not measured, it's not meaningful, and or that we only can focus on educational content. By the way, I'm a teacher. I love my educational content. I call that expertise content. I live there. But I will tell you, the people who are in their content and share some stuff that has nothing to do with what they're actually doing accelerate the cycle of, I feel like I know you. The goal is to make content that can make a stranger feel like I already know you, just a little bit.
Yeah. How do you feel, like you've been doing this for a bit now? Do you think the audience has changed, clearly, but are you finding it's the same challenges, or do you think that, or what has kind of evolved, modified, shifted, changed in terms of today's agent and the messaging that you're providing them? Because I feel like this messaging is so valuable no matter what.
It doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Yeah.
Right? It is the human experience. And,
Right.
and so ultimately there's little things, trends, editing styles, formats. You know, some people are saying, oh my gosh, now we're seeing, you know,
Aesthetics.
very relaxed talking head people sitting in parked cars with no production value, and that they're feeling like that's real, right? But that was Snapchat. That was
Right.
Instagram stories before
Yeah.
it was. So, you know, everything is new, everything is old, right? We will recycle back into high aesthetics, things jumping all over the screen, and then we'll go back to, I'm sitting in my parked car. I have no idea who this person is, but I can't wait for part number 2 because they're telling some story and I have no idea who the people are involved, but I'm here to listen to it, right? So everything comes back around, but I don't think that there's anything that I would say that more people are struggling with. Yes, what has changed, and I think that nobody talks about, is a lot of people are feeling very discouraged right now because they've been showing up for 5, 10, 15 years. They've been on Facebook, they've been on Instagram, they've dabbled here and there, and they're posting helpful content. They're posting stuff that if people saw it, it could be helpful. And they're like, why isn't anything working anymore? And what I tell them is, this is the big reason it's quote unquote not working anymore. The way that we have the product design, our human behavior, the way we consume content is different. Facebook 15 years ago, you didn't dare follow someone you didn't know in real life. That would have been weird, right?
Yeah.
Like we were friends.
Stalking.
That's right. That would be like, who is this? What are you doing?
And that's why they introduced, you might also know Bernie. Oh,
Yeah.
you might have 3 friends in common. And you're immediately like, oh, okay, great. I will allow you to be my friend. And so it was very simple. Who we followed was who we saw. And it was in order. Like if you just posted a minute ago, I was going to see your post at the top of my feed. Now we're in a world, instead of connection-based, it's interest-based. And because I love dog videos, guess who gets a lot of dog videos? Guess
Yeah.
who's following a lot of dog accounts?
Pretty
Yeah,
sure
right?
you're in Bernie's
I
algorithm
do not
is
need to
pretty
follow one
close.
more dog account. I'm serious. I love it.
Do you
but
follow the ones where the dogs actually talk, the humans talk for the dogs?
Well, no,
Okay, well,
no, I
Bernie will share
don't. I
some
haven't
videos
gotten
with
that
you
far
later.
down the rabbit hole. So, now we're seeing content from people that we don't know, and a lot of it.
Yes.
So it really exploded after 2020 because what were we all going to do, right, at home? So a lot of people got into content creation, and so now we're seeing a ton of people we don't know. Well, how do you engage with people you've never seen before? You don't. And so what's happening is now we're seeing episodes, like if you go home to Netflix tonight, you pick a random show and you start on episode 5, not even on 1. You have no idea what's going on. You have no context. You don't know who the characters are, and do that 30 more times. We're seeing content out of order with no context from people we've never seen before. We don't comment usually on something unless it really moves us. We can barely be moved to double tap something. And so what happens is we get into the habit of silently consuming.
Yes.
And silently engaging, meaning I'm going to send this to my best friend. I'm going to send this to my partner. And you don't know who did that, right? So a lot of people aren't getting engagement, like comments like they used to, and feeling really bad about it, but they're getting some shares. But they're like, oh my gosh, nobody's commenting. But what happens is we get so used to seeing 30, 40, 100 pieces of content from people we don't know that when I finally see yours, I forget to engage too because I'm just
Right.
on my roll, right?
It's almost like watching TV and
It is.
scrolling channels.
It's like watching TV now. So
Yeah.
it's not that the content isn't working anymore. There is a little bit of an element of that, but it's ultimately how we use the platforms and how we consume has drastically changed.
Okay.
And so it don't feel badly about that. And what I tell people is you've got to make up your own metrics, because if we are relying only on the metrics that are there in the dashboard, you're probably going to get really frustrated. You're either going to change everything you're doing and try a bunch of stuff
Constantly.
or you're going to copy someone else because it's working for them, and neither one of those is the right choice, right? So you're going to get frustrated either way. So I make up my own stuff. Number one, I don't even look at my own metrics. I just don't. I also don't get on the scale every day. So
Yeah.
I don't look at that. But what I
This
do
is extremely powerful for anybody who's struggling with their social, because
Yeah.
I think you nailed it. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm like, oh my gosh, like aha moment. Those metrics can really mess with people. And why not just do your thing?
But it messes with us that have maybe been on it for a longer time.
Mm-hmm.
If I look at my kids or even their friends, their metrics are already different. They're look at my views. Well, how many comments? Well, no, look at my views.
Yeah.
It's different
Or
the way
you
they're
have
looking
one
at
an
it.
outlier that you could never have planned for, which
Yeah.
happens to me all the time. And the one I never planned for is the one that people want to look at, share, get views. And then you think, oh, but the next one, like, how do I chase
How do
that?
you-
It's
yeah.
hard because we are so trained to track everything, especially
Yeah.
in a sales focused industry.
Totally.
And there is not an amount of feedback that can tell us that, again, people are watching. And
Right.
then I love it because when I give this example, people are like, oh my God, that happens to me all the time. I'll run into somebody I haven't seen in 6 months and they mention something that I posted, but they never commented on. People are
Oh,
watching.
that's all
That's
the
right.
time.
If you are not making your own metrics, like for me, my metrics are I'm going to post twice this week. That's a check mark. It's a yes or a no. Did I do that? I did. I'm going to pick a question that I know I've been asked more than once. I control that metric. I'm going to talk directly to the camera in this one. I'm not going to just be B-roll or make a picture. I control that. I'm going to initiate 5 conversations in direct messages. We do not control views, likes, if people resonate with it. We cannot control any of that.
I think that is extremely empowering for anybody who is really just trying to figure out the riddle of the social media. I mean, you're a social media expert in the real estate space. You do it, and you're giving us, I love that you started with this earlier too. You're giving us permission. You know, you're letting us know that, wow, who cares what the dashboard says? Just do your thing.
Well, it's got to be relieving too to some people that are
Oh my
watching.
gosh,
right?
yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
only
I feel
need
like
to
a
do it-
huge
I
weight
only
is
need to
lifted off
post
me right now.
twice a week. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
That's doable. You know what I mean? Versus
Right.
someone that is in the mindset, I know I need to post 10 times this week, and they probably don't do 0 because they're so put off by it. You know, it's doing something because they want to do it and they're going to see the value in it. And until they see the value in it, they won't see that until they start doing it.
For
sure.
I agree.
What are you seeing in terms of the coaching that you're doing or the speaking that you're doing? What are some of the challenges that I feel like you probably over the years kind of continue to receive the same feedback? How have you seen some of your coaching put into play, and how has it affected, positively affected some of your clients that you've worked with and seen either how they show up online or in person? But like, talk a little bit about how
there's
you've had some
two major
great impact.
areas that I think in the last 5-6 years I've really honed in on. And my brain is the kind of brain, if anybody who's listening, neurodivergent,
Yeah.
thought very differently about a lot of things. Also, I'm the kind of person where it takes multiple times for me to really absorb and understand, and I have to break it down and draw it out and all of these things. And what I at one time thought was a really negative thing actually turned out to be my best ability to teach, because people would say, wow, I've never thought of it like that. And I'm like, oh, well, I never thought of it like any other way. And it was just sort of my weird way of breaking it down. So for me, I really need the tangible, exactly like when somebody says be authentic, not helpful. Don't know. Like,
Yeah, what
tell
does
me
that
how.
actually mean?
Exactly
Yeah.
what it means. Provide value. Don't
What does
know.
that mean?
Yeah. So 2 things that have been really helpful is when I mentioned this, talking about limiting beliefs, this idea there's a mismatch between who we are offline and who we are online. And I say, what would you do in real life? Because we're doing a lot of weird stuff on social media that we would never do in person. Just a really quick, easy example. Again, going back to the conference example, because everybody's been to one and we get it, right? How off-putting would it be if you met somebody, literally said, hi, my name is, I work here, I'm from this state, and they were like, hey, you know what? I'd love to get your business. If you could just refer me the next thing, if you think about somebody in my state, I'd love that. Here's my card. You'd be like, okay, well, I don't even know you.
Right.
But we're over here in the DMs sending people what I call polite spam. Like, hey, I'd love to help you with X, Y, and Z, but we haven't even had a conversation yet, or we haven't even connected, and that's for you, not for me. And so we do a lot of weird stuff online. It used to be when we started doing Zooms, I told people, listen, if we were in person, you would not turn your seat around when I'm talking to you at a conference table. Put your camera on. And so we need to have that
say the
eye-to-eye
same. We
contact.
say
And you
the
know
same
what? That's why everybody was so tired. We were like, why are we so tired? We didn't even go anywhere. I haven't left the seat. And I've done 5 back-to-back Zoom meetings, and I am exhausted because our brain needs to see people's faces.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of stuff we're doing that we would not do offline. And so that's why there's this mismatch. And that's why sometimes you're not getting the results. So that idea around the limiting belief that I'm a Gen Xer, probably one of the last, or maybe elder millennials will be the last generation that knew what it was like to grow up without social media in the capacity that we have it today. And what happens is we often feel like, it's not real. social media is not real. And it's not, but just because you have a screen between you, as many of us figured out 2021, 22, when I saw my parents on FaceTime for 2 years and I said, I love you guys. I miss you. Can't wait to see you again. Nobody would say that's not real.
Right.
It's different, but it's not real. So this idea that social media or tech isn't real prevents us from showing up in a way that we would never dream of in the physical world. So that's one area. The second one, which is my favorite thing to talk about because it's how my brain works, is everybody is saying, well, I get it. I've got oodles of ideas of what to post. I can go to ChatGPT for that, but I'm still doing stuff and it's not working. What's going on? And so I have a very, very, very simple content strategy. I'm happy to share it here. I've got a whole chapter in my new book about it, and it's just called the PES framework. Nothing sexy. It's what the words stand for, P, E, and S. And what I found is that people have an unbalanced content strategy because we think that we have to show up and give value all the time. And what happens is if we focus only on that, then the stuff that actually gets people to relate to you and engage with you isn't happening. So very quickly, it's P for personal, E for expertise, S for sales. And I just draw three buckets, 3 categories, whatever you want to call it. Pillars, buckets, categories, types, doesn't matter. I keep it easy. You need personal content. We talked about that because that's the content that people engage with. So when you show me that it's your birthday, well, guess what? I know exactly what to say. I can't wait to say it because I want to make your day, right? Yeah. That's easy. But you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to share your birthday photo. I'm not going to share your vacation pics.
Right.
I'm going to talk to you about them, right? But that kind of content where I talked about never making a steak before and learning how to cook, that's under my personal category. I have so many people that engage on that content because you know what? It's wide, it's human, it's a broad experience. You either know or you don't know, right?
And it's a fun, light conversation.
Yeah, and my brain's not like, let me burn some brain calories thinking of a question about, the market updates and this interest rates. Yeah. So that content is for engagement and for relatability. Now, what happens when people engage with you, they remember those little stories, and now they start to pay attention to the other stuff. And I'm going to call it with love, our boring content, because my content about social media strategy is kind of boring too. It's very specific. It's helpful for the people who are searching for it, and it builds my trust and authority and tells the algorithm what I talk about so it knows how to categorize me and give me to more people. But people don't remember my frameworks, they remember my dog. So it's something to keep in mind when we're talking about that. The expertise content is often where we get stuck. And because we all took that same class where we're like, show up and give value. And so we're out here giving tips and tricks and how-tos and all of these things. And we're not getting a lot of comments. You know why? It's not for that. It's meant for getting found, search, right? In ChatGPT and Google search, if people looking, and you know what? I consume a lot of boring niche content. I looked for the 5 top baseboard paint colors and watched a lovely person who I've never seen do a 20-minute video on 2-speed about these colors and comparing them in natural light, overhead light, and guess who went out and bought the one that they recommend? It would be me, right? I didn't like it. I didn't follow. I have done so many things where I have found companies and reached out to them because I rabbit hole down their super boring niche content that only I was looking for. Who cares if I have 30,000 views? I want the one person who's calling. Yeah. So that is to be found by people, and it's also to be shared because, again, I'm not sharing your vacation pictures. I'm sharing your helpful tips. I'm sharing your emotional motivation.
Gosh, that's a great differentiator to explain it like that.
So, and then lastly, that's for trust. I need to see you talking about the thing that you do. I need to see you making your podcast. I need to see you interviewing experts. Like, I want to know that's the world you're in. I probably am not going to watch the video, but I'm seeing it now because I'm watching your other stuff that's human and I'm talking to you there. So I'm now going to see this stuff and start paying attention until one day I actually like it and maybe send it to someone else. The last area is sales. That is our just listeds, our just solds, our testimonials, our events, our open houses. You know, the stuff that hardly anybody comments on. That's not what it's for. It's not what it's for. That is for 2 things. It is to provide proof that all the other content that you said you were doing and that you showed me you were in the industry and that you were out and about and that you were showing me your favorite local businesses and local things, then now you actually did the thing. You have happy clients. This is how you market other people's homes. You could do this for me. And we need a prompt because if we do not continually remind people on their own terms, when it falls into their feed, when they need it, then they're going to say, oh, that's right. I'm going to need to reach out. So I'll give you an example in my world, my book, right? My personal stuff about the book would be like, I don't know what I'm doing. I swore I would never do this again. True story. I was like, after my second book, I'm like, done, never doing that again. I don't know if anybody here has written a book, but it is, for me anyway, quite a process. And I was like, I'm never going through that ever again. Here I am with a third book. This is it, promise. And I was like, wow, I could talk about that. I could be like, I don't know if anybody else has done this, but do you ever look at your stuff and you're just like, I should just delete the whole thing? I'm on page like 300 and I'm like, this is awful. I'm rereading it. And I was there. I was like, this is awful.
You're like, I was there.
And you know what? Now that I've reread it, I'm like, this is so great. But in the moment, I was like, this is terrible. What am I even doing? Who am I even thinking I am? So I went through this whole thing. That'd be my personal. Now my expertise is teaching all the stuff in the book, the little frameworks, the little things, the PES framework, all of that. And then my sales is me holding up my book and saying, oh my gosh, look, it's here. You can go buy it on Amazon. Now imagine if all I posted was, here's my book. You can buy it on Amazon.
Yes.
Right.
We're like, got it. You wrote a book.
Oh
Cool.
my gosh.
Yeah.
So
You've written 3, by the way.
Especially, like you said, without people knowing you.
Yeah.
Right?
Exactly. So that's that formula. And I would encourage people, now
That's
that
a
you've kind of
great
had these
way
aha moments,
Yeah.
if you just go back and look at your 10 posts, there's only 2 things I want you to look at. Number 1, are you in most of them? Because if you're not, that is the one fix.
Okay.
The second thing is, okay, well, let me just check mark off. Oh, wow. 8 out of the last 10 posts are sales. Well, no wonder you're not getting any engagement. Or you're having tons of conversations because you're posting the weekends and the kids at soccer and all your vacations, and you're having all kinds of conversations, but how's your conversion pipeline?
Right.
So, it's just to see where you're in balance, and it's not a hard rule, but I really was able to wrap my head around, oh, okay, now I have a guide. Now I know why. I want to know why kind of person. Why is it not working? Because I'm showing up consistently, and I've been doing it for 5 years, and something stopped working 2 years ago. That is where people are at right now. And that is usually the answer, what I give you right there.
That framework is awesome. I love that. And even how you use yourself as an example through that, framework is massive. I think that was so relatable for everyone to see it, right? You can learn about a framework or an equation, and then you need to understand how that works.
That's how my brain works. I have to
with
tell
a
me
real
exactly.
example.
Yes,
with a real example.
I can't comprehend it unless I actually have something.
And I think you're so spot on. I feel like we hear that from clients a lot. Like, I feel like I've been doing it and I was getting great traction, and now it just seems quiet, and nobody knows how this algorithm thing really works. And then do I stop doing it? Do I keep doing it? And then I think it's just about what you said before, like, why are you doing it to begin with? Is it about the likes and the comments? Is it about the bigger picture of like that balanced framework? Plus, what's your phrase, your world famous phrase, commenting?
Less content,
yes.
more
More
commenting.
Yes.
And I actually would say that the most original content on the planet is your conversation and comments. And think about it. Do you remember the people who actually comment and show up in notification in your inbox? Or do you remember the people that liked it? I don't even look at the likes. Like, you can click the little heart and see the names, and I could say, oh, David and Maria.
Yeah.
But, we just talked about how we're seeing a bunch of people we don't know. It's real quiet in the inbox. That's your opportunity. If you want to build brand, mind share, and trust, are you talking to people? Because guess what? Guaranteed they see you there. And if you're talking to them about their content, we just had graduation, right? Everybody's graduating.
Yeah.
To be able to
only
say,
seen a few
oh
of
my
those
gosh,
posts.
to be able to say, which is true, I'm going to a party on Saturday. I remember as a toddler, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I can't believe it. Like, where is the time gone? To have that quick little conversation, there's nothing else on the planet that is free and scalable that gives us context about what other people's lives are important to them right now. I have an email database. Hopefully everybody listening does. I have no idea what's on the other side when people are opening that, and it's about me. There's no other way, or very few ways, to have a brand experience with your personal brand on someone else's terms. When I talk to you about what you've literally just told me to talk about, I don't have to think about what to say.
Yeah.
If I called you, I'd have to catch up with you and find out what you've been doing. I don't necessarily need to do that. You're telling me what to talk about, and I can do it at scale with 3 people or 30 people in a couple of minutes. And it's something that we forget, that it's always a communication tool first and a content tool second. And your most memorable content is what you say to people. That's what people remember. They remember the conversations. Nobody remembers my posts. There's very few, unless it's a very personal post, that people will remember some of it, but most people don't remember any of my posts. And I don't remember anyone's posts, but I remember when we talked. I remember what we talked about in our DMs.
Yeah. That's a great scope to look at this from, for sure, because I think it gets pretty messy salad for people in terms of figuring what matters to them in that social. But that piece to me connects, like remembering the conversation. It's so true. I think that's most people's experience. That, you know, like when somebody comments back or you reach out to someone, they actually responded, and you remember that. So half the time you don't remember what the content was,
bad.
unless it was a really funny dog video.
Yes. Yeah. The voice over the dogs always hits home with Bernie.
I love that. Okay. I need to take notes and follow.
I know, for sure, right? I have so many good dog people that I follow. Dog people, dog sites, like dog pages.
Dog accounts, we love them.
What are you seeing? Like, you've given so much like leeway and acceptance for like pretty much whatever you want to do, put it out there. But like, what do you see that you're like, what are you thinking?
I think this was under the preparation questions under pet peeves in social media. And honestly, the only pet peeve I have is, you know, when people, and this doesn't happen very often, which is good, but when people, when people come in with the hard sell cold, you know, they don't know you, they've never initiated a conversation, or probably actually the worst one is when I get a compliment on like, hey, this video is really great, I liked your message, I say thank you, and they immediately say, you know, I have an editing company, and I could really make this better.
Oh, boy.
And I'm like, okay, well, you know, and I usually don't even respond anymore, but, you know, it's not saying that you shouldn't market yourself.
Right.
For me, I don't typically respond to that, and I get a lot of
I bet you do. Yeah.
So that's really only the thing that I don't love is the sales pitch without getting to know someone.
You should use it to sell books. You could say, I'd be happy to meet with you after you buy 100 books. Here's the link.
I could do that. That is one option, yes.
Kidding.
Well, actually, I'm glad that was a great intro.
That'd be so funny.
Tell us about your new book.
That's what I'm saying. Let's talk about uncopy pastable.
Yeah, so I like to make up words, and I always think in terms of originality. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it's like you want to be uncopy pastable, but how do we even do that? Like, what even is a personal brand, and how do we do it? And I wanted something very step by step, and so I've taken everything I've done over the last number of years, every framework, every drawing, and I've put it into this book, and it's about how to build a personal brand that people trust on social media. And it is not specifically for real estate, but it is absolutely applicable to real estate and anyone in any industry where you are the personal brand. You are the product, you are the service, you are needing to build trust in a screen-to-screen environment. And so I talk about the limiting beliefs and how to clear the fear. I have a lot of exercises on that. I talk about video. I talk about tips for video. I talk a lot about content, give you a ton of content ideas. I even give a few AI prompts in there because, I mean, you can just do AI prompts all day. And I love using AI, and I actually think that we can use AI to speak, you know, more as a human. You know, I'm not expecting people or hoping that they're going to be copying and pasting things. It's really more of I used it as a tool. I'm like, here's my chapter I wrote, like poke holes in it. What am I missing? I argue with it. So there's a lot of great things that you can do with AI, but it's really about figuring out who you are first and what you want to say and how to say it differently in your own way, because a lot of people don't talk about how do you say it differently in your own way. They just say it differently in your own way. And I talk a lot about the word context, and I found that nobody talked about what really is that. And I'm like, people don't need more content, they need more context. They need to know about your person, your personality, your perspective, because there is no original real estate content. No, fill in the blank. There's no original social media content. There's no original mortgage content. It's all been done. And so how do we create original content? And so I go into frameworks for that. And it also is for people who are not even ready to make posts yet. There's a whole section in how you can use it without even making posts on social media.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's interesting. There's I feel like there's quite a few folks that are presenting themselves in a really unique way, like the emo realtor. And have you seen the emo
Such
realtor?
creative people.
Oh my gosh.
Such creative people.
And so like, I think of that as being unique content, even though they're saying the same thing, they're just stylizing it.
Yep.
And they're really being themselves, but the emo realtor is hilarious. And of course, like Tampa Tampa.
So many creative people.
Right?
So
Really.
many
And I
creative,
love this
unique-
freedom that you're seeing with people just being okay with having permission to put it out there. But are you going to be doing like any keynotes accompanied with some book signings, anything like that you have already on the books?
I don't have anything locally.
Okay.
My next trip is going to be to Nashville and Knoxville. And then I've got a few, usually September, October are busy. So for the summer, not a lot of conferences happening. But I'll be in several different states. I'm going to Idaho in September, and I'll be at a lot of conferences and,
good.
and bring some books. Yeah,
Okay,
but
good.
it'll be available on Amazon. So it's actually already available to pre-order, but
Is
it
it?
comes
Okay,
out
good.
August 4th.
Okay, I love it. Uncopy pastable. That's a great
love the
title.
name.
Thank
I
you.
love that. I'm all about like wordsmithing.
Oh, that
stuff.
falls right.
I know.
Right.
I knew you would love it.
Yeah.
That falls right in the Burn Dictionary.
Yes.
So 3 books in, what has been the motivating factor? Because I feel like a lot of people would love to write a book, but you've done 3, and I think that's a really incredible thing to do. Like, and you said that with this 3rd one, you were like at wit's end with it. How, like, what was your prompt to do the next one? Like, what was the ethos of that? And then how did you overcome being stuck?
So I think now looking back at all 3, there was an element of, wow, it would be really cool to write a book. And it is. It's very cool to have something in your hands that you actually
Yes.
made. But ultimately,
So
the
admirable.
real thing that made me want to do it is I wanted to become an expert at what I was doing. And the way I learn is through books and through writing and reading books. And I knew that it would be the hardest thing to do. I felt like I was in high school and college, like redoing all the notes for whatever I was studying for. And so I really wanted something that had everything I wanted to say. And I knew it would be hard for me to distill it down in a book. And I knew that that is how I personally needed to do it. So I actually wrote them so that I could be more of an expert at what I'm talking about. And it really helped me. I was already an expert, and writing the book was really helpful in getting so familiar with how do I explain this, but how do I explain this to somebody who's a different learner? How do I explain this to somebody who's a visual learner? And so I really did it for that purpose. And when it was all said and done, I was really glad I did it. But there were many months where I was ready to be like, this was the worst idea I ever had.
But you're already in it.
I was already in it, and I was like, I don't even want to finish it. I had a lot of animosity towards it. I didn't want to sit down and write. And so I'm in a much better place now that it's over. But again, it was a really good learning experience for me. And
It's an amazing accomplishment.
thanks. Yeah, and I would highly recommend that if anybody has an inkling to write a book, you should write one.
That's so cool. I
You
love
should
it.
write one for sure.
Congratulations on
Thanks.
that. So uncopy, pastable, available August 4th. You're still doing your coaching? Are you still chelseapeitz.com?
Yeah, chelseapeitz.com. I actually have a new, fresh website that's coming out to accompany the book. So that should be done in July, but it is up now, and you can find a ton of free resources. Eventually, you'll have a free chapter you can access there for the book as well. So as of July, it'll be all updated, lots of free goodies there, and coaching one-on-one, and also doing a lot of speaking.
I love it. When we do some marketing for this, we'll do the tag for the book too. The
Thanks.
link. Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
So awesome. I mean, long overdue. Like, I feel like you're another one of our guests where we could have you on frequently and just get some new, nuggets. So I love your approach to social and humanizing it. I know that sounds so hokey, but that's really how I feel after meeting with when we have conversation with Chelsea. I just feel like it feels so attainable, accessible, and just, I'm a person. Let me just be a person.
Well, and I know when we've had you at events, anybody that comes in with any kind of, I know I need to come to this because I need to start it, I notice they always leave feeling at ease.
Yes, that's a really good way
They
to
don't
put
feel
it.
like it's a big chore, like, oh, this is another project. They're like, okay, I can do that.
Yeah.
That's
Right,
manageable.
That's why they call me the social media therapist.
I love it. I love it. You're awesome, Chelsea. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Chelsea.